It's a cool, crisp morning here in Macroom in County Cork for the 6th and final round of the Irish Tarmac Rally Championship, the CB Tool Hire Cork 20 International Rally.
Hello, it's the final round of the Irish Tarmac Rally Championship, the CBToolHire.com Cork 20, where Monaghan's Josh Moffat will be crowned champion for the first time, despite the fact that the Ford Fiesta driver will not be at the event. Instead, it's Belfast Johnny Greer who heads the entry in his R5 Ford Fiesta. The number 2 seed Roy White has never won an Irish Tarmac round, and he won't get a better chance to break that duck this weekend in his World Rally car against the R5 machines, driven by the likes of Greer and Daniel Cronin, brother of Keith, the 4-time British Rally champion who starts at number 3 in his R5 Fiesta. There are 8 stages on day 1 of this year's event. The Rally HQ is the Riverside Park Hotel. Stages 1 and 3 will be at Cobbler's Cross, while stages 2 and 4 in this compact event will be at Lisarda. Stages 5 and 7 will be at Kilnamatra, while stages 6 and 8 on this busy opening day will be staged at Loch Ula. The former national rally champion Roy White came close to winning his first international rally at the Killarney Rally of the Lakes in 2017. Could Cork provide his best chance to break that duck? The Fiesta World Rally car driver had an 8.8 second lead at the end of 4 stages. Amazingly, although he's also a former national champion, White has never won a national round either. Could the Cork 20 be the weekend that White rolls over the victory ramp in first place? It's not been a good season for Daniel Cronin and his co-driver Shane Buckley. He'd like to finish on a high, and he set some very good pace times early in the R5 Fiesta up against White's World Rally car. White, though, clearly had the early edge, and Cronin had to be content with second after 4 stages. Welshman Marion Evans is seated at 4, with navigator Jonathan Jackson was delighted to be tackling the Cork 20 in a new Hyundai i20 R5. And the pair started well. They were 4th after 3 stages, and they moved up to 3rd by the end of 3, 13.6 seconds off White's lead. The early stages didn't seem to suit Johnny Greer and Kirsty Riddock in their Fiesta R5, although he was just back from his disappointing off in the last round in Ulster. Greer also had 3rd overall in the championship to consider, and he was tied with Evans after 4 stages, also 13.6 seconds off the leader. The former Group N champion David Guest and his co-driver Jonathan McGrath were still getting used to switching from a Mitsubishi Lancer to a left-hand drive Skoda Fabia S2000. After 4 stages and the midway point of day 1, the pair were 5th, but 1 minute and 37 seconds off the lead. As always on the tarmac scene, there's a rally within a rally, and in the national class for modified cars, Kevin Eves, the reigning modified champion, had no issues across the opening 4 stages, and he was looking good for back-to-back titles.
Crest to 2 left, right 2 left, and 4 right, and 3 left, opens and tightens to 20, turn square left. And left on flat crest, 5 right, 6 left, 40 to 2 right seam.
Frank Kelly and Michael Cody were hoping to get through Saturday's stages unscathed and have a real go on Sunday, and so were delighted to be second so far in their Mark II Ford Escort after the opening 4 tests on day 1. Donegal's Declan Gallagher, the Flying Milkman as he's known, is a former modified champion, but he's been out of rallying for a year and a half now. This weekend he hired the Starlet from Peter Howler in Galway. He hopes to tackle a full season in 2019. He was third in Nationals after 11.7 seconds off Kelly. Brian Brogan is the Donegal Motor Club chairman. He had no issues across the opening 4 stages. Brogan also competed on other Irish tarmac rounds this year, including the Rally of the Lakes in Killarney, and he was a fine 4th in the escort at this point. Another Donegal pairing, Kyle and Dale McGettigan, in their escorts, had a strong showing at 2 previous rounds, and they were going well on the opening stage.
2 right opens over crest, 100 down, it's all good, 100 down, the flat 1 right, 80, the 2 right and the grip, and the 2 left over crest and line is 2 left over crest, 100, the fast 2 left, 60, the 3 left over crest and the 3 right.
But sadly, mechanical troubles saw the Donegal brothers retire before the end of the stage. The Cork 20 was over almost as soon as it started. J.O. McDade and Keith Curley still had an outside chance of taking the modified championship, but the Donegal Limerick pairing would need to win the national category while looking for title rivals Eves and Bonner to hit trouble. There were some complicated permutations to consider for the modified contenders, and John Bonner was another who needed a good event and was also hoping that those around him would fall by the wayside.
170. Flat crest jump at the hut. 100. Crest jump okay. 300. Middle of the crest 130. Chicane right Anthony 3 wheels.
Martin and Dawn England, the English husband and wife team, were in contention for the Southern 4 Rally Championship, and a solid start from them in the Fiesta saw the pair 7th in the national category. Stephen Baughan and Chris O'Donnell were having a mixed season, but they showed good pace when the car was running well. Their escort was 8th in class after 4 stages. Next through, Colin Byrne and Stephen Quinn. It's Byrne's 8th time to compete at the Cork 20 and the first time to sponsor it. Byrne said he found the competition very tough.
We're delighted to be on board this year, celebrating 20 years in business. CB Tool Hire was approached recently by the Munster Car Club, and we said absolutely. It was quite fitting that it is the Cork 20 and 20 years in business, and it's fantastic for the local community here.
Neil Phelan and Keith McCarthy were over a minute further back in a similar spec escort. Neil Phelan was the main sponsor for 3 previous years. He's now an associate sponsor of the Cork 20 International Rally. Emma Knott is a rally-mad local driver who won her hometown pageant, Flower of Macroom. It's a dream come true for Emma, driving a rally car for the very first time.
I know you're a rally fan. You've been at every single rally that I've been at over the years. So to drive, it must mean so much to you.
Yeah, it feels so much different, like to be in the driver's seat. Like, it's a great buzz. Somehow I don't think you might see me out in the ditches anymore now after today.
You've got the bug.
Yeah, have the bug now, so happy out now, loving life at the moment now, living the dream.
So well done, Emma. And now to the remaining stages and the runs over 5, 6, 7 and 8 to complete day 1 of this year's Cork 20 International Rally. And the overall leader at the end of day 1 and 8 stages was Clonmel's Roy White in his Fiesta World Rally car. No issues on the last 4 stages, but his lead was coming under threat. White now led by 8.9 seconds, and he wasn't pulling away as expected.
We're still going okay. We're not taking too many risks. I feel like we're increasing the pace all the time, so look, we'll see how it lies for tomorrow.
Johnny Greer excelled on stages 5 and 7 at Kilmamartyra as the tighter, twisty roads suited him better, and his R5 Fiesta was keeping White's World Rally car honest at the end of day 1. Surprised by the pace of Greer, Cronin felt he'd have to up his game, but he was starting to fall away from the battle for the lead, and at the end of 8 of the 16 stages, the Ballylickey driver was now 35.6 seconds off White's lead. Evans admitted he wasn't confident on that last loop of stages as he got used to his new machine, and overnight he was now 4th, 1 minute and 14 seconds off White and seemingly out of contention for the win. The big news from the national category was that gearbox issues on stage 5 had forced Kevin Eves out of the rally. He didn't seem too hopeful of getting back out of service under Rally 2 rules.
I don't know how there just come a bit of a growl into the car, next thing bang, so the bell housing broke and the gearbox dropped, so we didn't really hit anything or do anything, so I don't know. We'll see if we can get back in action here and try and Rally 2 for maybe some championship points, but could be doubtful.
Frank Kelly took over the lead in the national section. No issues for him over the day's remaining stages, and with Sunday's 8 to come, Kelly had 18.7 seconds to spare over the rest of the modified drivers. Second now was J.R. McDade, whose tyres went off a little on those stages, and he clipped a rock on stage 6, but no damage was done. McDade said he felt lucky to get away with that one though. With Eves out, the modified title looked like it may now come down to a battle between McDade and Bonner, and the nerves were starting to creep in as the stakes got higher. Bonner, third overnight in the escort, 45.5 seconds off Kelly and 26.7 off McDade. In the historics, Martin Doherty and Kevin Flanagan led overnight. Doherty's a Donegal man, but is not registered for the championship, and he'd been having a great battle with Owen Murphy, but Murphy hit problems and fallen down the leaderboard after day 1. The championship leader had climbed to the class lead after 7 stages, but a ruptured fuel tank and a loss of drive forced him out. He was to rejoin under Rally 2 rules on day 2 in order to keep his title hopes alive, but he'd lost an awful lot of time.
Flat 5 right over crest, jump in. Downhill, 5 left on, cut tight to right. Repeat, tight to right, into 1 left. And middle of it, flat double jump, 40. Flat 6 left, and flat crest bump. And right 40, past the laneway, 4 left long.
We will see how the historics unfolded a little later on, but here's an interesting pairing. The Isle of Man crew of grandfather and granddaughter, Martin and Misha Freestone. Granddaughter Misha was in the running for the Navigator's title in the historic class.
We're winning our class, but we're second overall, I think.
Misha, you are navigating, and you are going to be crowned our navigating champion in the historics this weekend. So exciting.
Yeah, it is actually. I mean, yeah, I want him to come first as well, because then it's going to be extra special, you know. Yeah, it's our first time doing it together, so yeah, it's good.
The overall standings then, after 8 stages, Roy White's got an 8.9 second lead from Jonathan Greer. Daniel Cronin's in third ahead of Evans and Guest. In the top 5 national category, it is Frank Kelly who's got an 18.7 second lead now from J.R. McDade. John Bonner is third ahead of Colin Byrne and Brian Brogan. So that's day 1 done and dusted. Join us for part 2 of the 2018 Cork 20 International Rally after this break. Welcome back to day 2 and part 2 of the CBToolHire.com Cork 20 International Rally, the final round of the 2018 Irish Tarmac Rally Championship. Overnight and heading into the final 8 stages of this year's event, Clonmel's Roy White held an 8.9 second lead in his Ford Fiesta World Rally car. Can White go on to claim his first ever international win?
Day 2 of the action lies ahead here in Macroom for the CB Tool Hire Cork 20 International Rally. And clerk at the course, Paul Brown and his team have worked tirelessly to lay on another 8 quality stages.
And we caught up with Aaron Brown, the son of the clerk of the course, Paul Brown, who is running in this year's event in the junior section in his Honda Civic.
Oh, it's been mad in our house the last couple of weeks, my mum being entry secretary as well. But I haven't even seen Dad the last couple of weeks. He's constantly been out and everything, and we're trying to get the car ready as well after Stone Shores, and the house has just been mad.
Roy White led the event by 8.9 seconds overnight in his Ford Fiesta from the number 1 seed Johnny Greer, who found the tighter stages towards the end of day 1 much more to his liking, and he was looking to close the gap on day 2 as the Belfast driver also looked for his first international win. It was a great opening stage by Greer. It saw him take the lead by 2.8 seconds. Your 5 now ahead of White's World Rally car. Greer looked to be up to speed now, and there seemed that there would be a titanic battle between Greer and White over the remaining 5 stages. But sadly, Greer slipped off the road and out of the rally on stage 10, ending his involvement and robbing us of what looked like a tremendous battle. Greer's off put White back into the lead, and it was now a comfortable 49.6 seconds. White's crew had made a few changes after stage 10. He was much happier with the setup, and his times through 11 and 12 ensured that he had an overall lead. Daniel Cronin was now up to second with Greer's demise, but was some way back from White. Cronin admitted he had the wrong tyre choice for the opening loop of 2 stages on day 2, but he was much happier with a second run over those stages in the Fiesta. Indeed, Cronin was now looking over his shoulders at Marion Evans, who set the fastest times on both runs over the Butter Road stage. And had Cronin in his sights, he was 24 seconds dead off the second-placed driver. In the national category for modified cars, Frank Kelly lost his clutch and lots of time across the opening loop of 2 stages on day 2. But that was fixed at service and the car was back on song for the repeat loop, and his overall lead in the class now stood at 17.5 seconds. J.R. McDade got caught on wrong tyres during some brief rain showers on the opening loop. But besides that, he had no major dramas to report and stayed second in the Ford Escort in the national category. Colin Byrne was bang on the pace from the off in the Ford Escort and was setting top times in the national category. He lay in third, just over half a minute off McDade. Slightly worried though about changing conditions out on the course. John Bonner was still in with a chance of winning the national championship, with Kevin Eaves going out on day 1, and he was 4th after 12 stages in the Ford Escort. Brian Brogan was 5th in the class in his Escort after 12 stages and was 21 seconds behind Bonner. With 4 stages to go, it was all to play for in the national or modified class. So 4 stages to go on this year's Cork 20 International Rally, and for Roy White it really was a case of keeping it on the road to claim his first ever international win. Roy White knew that he had to keep full concentration. Indeed, he had a minor off on stage 13, but with 2 to go he now led by 34.2 seconds. Daniel Cronin said he felt lucky not to do more damage when he clipped a rock on stage 13, but he remained in second with 2 to go in his R5 Fiesta.
Daniel, you're after taking some lump out of your alloy.
Yeah, you don't get away with too many of those. Yeah, on the first stage out was more like a gravel stage, very loose, and just into a fast left-hander, and she kind of got away from me, and I turned in a bit early. There was a rock inside, and it happened very early on the stage, so very surprised that stayed up.
Marion Evans was another to survive some mishaps. He overshot on stage 14, but he remained in third in the Hyundai i20.
Marion, a bit of a moment out there?
Yeah, we overshot in the last one, just a bit of my mistake really. Braked on the gravel and she took off and didn't want to go around the corner.
Were you not listening to the notes?
It was starting to rain and I was playing about with the wipers a bit, so it was hard struggling to multitask, I think.
In the national category, Frank Kelly continued to lead. He was happy with his pace and was glad to report no more issues with the Escort. His advantage now almost 1 minute and 30 seconds. J.R. McDade remained in second in the Nationals, but he was caught out at a chicane and his second place was now under serious threat. Disaster though for Colin Byrne. The third place modified driver was caught out on stage 13. He slid his Escort into a bank, the car too badly damaged to continue. Despite Byrne's best efforts, he was out of the rally. Disaster also for John Bonner's Escort. The Donegal man was looking good for the overall modified championship win until engine and oil pressure issues on stage 13 put him out and ended his push for the title.
Race 6 right down the hill, 200 chicane. One ahead. What's wrong?
Engine.
Eh?
Engine.
You're joking. You are joking.
Oil pressure.
John, such disappointment for you. What happened?
Just one of them things. I just tried to keep it steady all day. I was driving in the middle of the road, everything going good. Started the stage 13 and started with a big long straight, and she must have lifted a chip from the road and came up and pulled off the oil belt, and the oil light came on, so it wasn't to be.
You got to really feel for John Bonner. The long trip from Donegal with the national championship in sight, and his Escort expires. That's rallying, as has often been said. Shortly we'll look at the winners in the overall and national category, but first a look at our class winners. Second in Class 9, the Flower of Macroom. Emma Knott, delighted to finish second on her debut drive with co-driver Declan Casey. And the Class 9 winners, Mick Boland and David Doyle in their Vauxhall Nova. Third in Class 10 was enough to secure the Sureway Group Southeast Stages Championship for Pierce Donaghy and Eilish Dunn in their Opel Corsa. First in Class 10, Dennis O'Brien and Michael O'Riordan in their Opel Corsa. Class 11F, the local crew of Christy McCarthy and Gavin Sheehan took victory in their Honda Civic. Alan Tracy was taking part in his 20th Cork 20 rally and he won Class 11R in the Corolla. The Class 12 winners were Niall Fitzpatrick and Johnny Murphy in the Ford Escort Mark 1. Class 22 went to Peter Keohane and Mark McCarthy in their Peugeot 106. There was a Sunday Stages rally at the Cork 20 this year, and that was won by the Ford Escort of Sean Moran and Jonathan Keane. Having already secured the Junior Championship, Gary McNamee finished with another win with former Junior National Champion Brian Brady on the notes.
Gary, you are 2018 Junior Champion, a huge achievement.
Yeah, delighted to get the International Championship. We won the National back in 2016, so it's nice to do the two of them. It's my final year in the Juniors.
In the historic class, a great comeback to take third for Owen Murphy and Anthony Nestor on the Talbot Sunbeam. More than enough to secure the historic championship for 2018.
Oh, it's fantastic. We put in a real tough weekend. We didn't make it easy on ourselves. We had a dry shaft failure and a fuel tank burst, but my lads, they just put in a stormy performance last night, got the car back going, and we battled all day and got back up to third overall, so we were very happy now.
Second in historics, George Cullen and JJ Kremen in the Mark II Ford Escort. And the historic winners by a country mile, the Ford Escort RS 1800 of Martin Doherty and Kevin Flanagan. We move on to the overall in the national or modified class. And fifth, the former historic champion Dennis Moynihan and co-driver Martin O'Brien in their debut drive in the Ford Fiesta R5 Plus. Fourth, J.R. McDade and Keith Curley in the Ford Escort, and that was not quite good enough to clinch the modified title. He had to settle for second in the championship. Third, Martin and Dawn England, husband and wife crew. They now lead the Southern Ford Championship ahead of Stephen Baughan. Second, and getting some good preparation for his upcoming home Donegal Harvest Rally, Brian Brogan and Damien McGettigan in their Mark II Ford Escort. Frank Kelly coasted the victory with Michael Cody as his co-driver in their Ford Escort Mark II, winner of the national or modified category.
We had decided on the recce that it was a finishers rally, and we tried to do that, tried to preserve the car. Everybody had problems. We had dramas, 3 failures through the weekend, but we still made it, and as a team we managed it.
And so to the top 5 in the international category, and in 5th place, Nick Barnett and Martin Brady, glad to get another finish after a difficult debut season in the Mitsubishi Lancer. In 4th, David Guest and Jonathan McGrath, happy with the progress of the Skoda S2000. In 3rd, Marion Evans and Jonathan Jackson in the Hyundai i20 R5, thrilled to take a podium finish on an international rally. In 2nd, best result of the season for Daniel Cronin and Shane Buckley in their Ford Fiesta. Cronin certainly a one to watch for 2019, but he knows himself he needs to be a bit more consistent. And the first ever international win for Roy White and co-driver James O'Brien in the Ford Fiesta World Rally car. In the end, the winning margin for the pair, 27.8 seconds.
Delighted to take a win of an international rally. We had a good run at the start of the year, petered off in the middle, and we've come back strong at the end, so looking forward to next year.
So the top 5 after the Cork 20 International Rally, the final round of the Irish Tarmac Rally Championship Series. A win for Roy White by 27.8 seconds ahead of Daniel Cronin, Marion Evans, David Guest and Nick Barnett. In the championship, the winner, Josh Moffat, for the first time ahead of brother Sam in 2nd place. Robert Barrable was 3rd, Daniel Cronin up to 4th place ahead of Johnny Greer.
Roy White and James O'Brien take a well-deserved win here at the CB Tool Hire Cork 20 International Rally. But it's Josh Moffat and Andy Hayes who are crowned our 2018 Irish Tarmac Rally Champions. From me and from all the On The Limit Sports team, thank you so much for watching all season long. We'll see you for 2019.